Page 198. The Borg of Herbs. Clank, clank. The dancing fan was still dancing, its rubber feet beating out the same syncopated Persian rhythm I had been listening to all night, but that wasn't what woke me. I slipped out of my bedroom, clicking to the rugs where I could, sticking to them. The floor tiles were cold as my feet slopped against them. Clink, swish. It was coming from the kitchen. Mom? She stood at the sink in her robe, Mamu's bright pink rubber gloves pulled up to her elbows. Her hair was still done up Persian casual, all curls and falls, though several locks had managed to escape their careful arrangement. The counters to the right of the sink were stacked high as the gate of all nations with pots and pans, plates and glasses and teacups. So many teacups. Hey, sweetie, what are you doing? I couldn't sleep. Can I help? It's okay. Go back to bed. I could tell she was just tarrowing. I can't sleep either. All right, you mind drying these? She nodded to the serving platters in the dish rack. You can stack them on the table. I pulled a tea towel from the drawer next to the stove, then grabbed the ceramic rice platter and dried it off. The enormous dish was white with concentric rings of tiny green leaves on it. Hey, didn't we send this with the Articanis last year? Mom pushed her glasses back up the bridge of her nose with her forearm. Yeah, for their anniversary. Oh, yeah. Mamu and Babu had been married for 51 years. I thought about all the fights they must have had and all the times they had forgiven each other. I thought about how the little secrets they knew about each other that no one else knew. I thought about how they might not reach their 52nd anniversary. Mom? Yeah? Her voice had gone all pinched like the neck of a deflating balloon. I'm sorry about Babu. She shook her head and scrubbed the soup pot hard enough to bore a hole through it. No, I'm sorry. I wish I'd brought you and Lala sooner. It's not fair you only get to see him like this. So tired and just, well, you saw. She stopped scrubbing and blew a hair out of her face. Yeah, his doctors say it's going to get worse. I swallowed and looked for a dry spot on my towel. You know what I remember? What? There was this day, I was 7 or 8, and me and Mavash had gone to the park to play. We were friends growing up. Did I tell you that? She had not told me that. It was weird imagining Mom having childhood friends. But I liked that Mom was friends with Mavash, and now I was friends with her son. Anyway, we had gone barefoot because it was a cool morning, but when lunchtime came around, we tried to leave the grass and the pavement was too hot. Mom got this funny smile on her face. When we didn't make it home, Babu came and found us, but he didn't know why we were there, and he hadn't brought us any shoes. Oh no, I said. So he carried Mavash back home, piggyback, and then left me in the park. He told me it would teach me to be more responsible. That sounded like something Babu would do. But when he came back, he had forgotten to swing by our house and get shoes for me, so he had to carry me home too. That made me smile. He was so strong, Mom said, and then she sniffled. I put down my towel and tried to give Mom a sideways hug, but she shook me off. I'm okay. She pushed her glasses up again. I'm sorry I didn't teach you Farsi. What? I didn't understand. Our conversation had made a particularly confusing slingshot maneuver. It was my job to teach you, to make sure you knew where you came from, and I really screwed up. Mom. She put down her sponge and turned off the sink. It was hard for me, moving to America. When I left here, I was sure I was going to come back, but I didn't. I fell in love with your dad and stayed, even though I never really felt at home. When you were born, I wanted you to grow up American, so you would feel like you belonged. I understood that. I really did. School was hard enough being a fractional Persian. I'm not sure I would have survived being even more Persian. Mom shook her head. You're so much like your dad in so many ways. But you're my son, too. I tried to do better as you got older, but I think it helped your sister more than it helped you. I mean, it would have been nice to learn Farsi, like Lala. I'm sorry, Darius. Now that it was just us, all the true Persians had gone to bed, I was back to my American name. Mom leaned over to kiss the side of my head, and then turned the faucet back on. You'd have an easier time talking to your grandfather if you could speak to him in Farsi. He was never very comfortable in English, even before. That was something I already understood. Back home, when we Skyped, it was Mama who did most of the talking in English. He really does love you, even if he doesn't always say the right things. He loves you. I know, I said. I think he loves you more since he never gets to see you. It makes it more special. Yeah, I love him too. That may have been an exaggeration. I mean, I loved the idea of Babu, but the idea was very different from the reality. Lala was the first one up the next morning. She ran up and down the hallway, singing at the top of her lungs, her feet pattering on the tiles as she danced. She cracked my door and peeked into my room. Morning, Lala. So Bakir, you want some breakfast? Bala? Okay, I'll be right there. I pulled on a pair of socks and followed her to the kitchen. Thanks to me and Mom, you could hardly tell there had been a Nowruz party the night before. I even wiped down the countertops and stove. Lala stuck her nose in the refrigerator. It was stacked so full of leftovers, the light up top didn't hit anything below the first shelf. Nuno Penir Mekam. Lala had entered Farsi-only mode, though at least she was sticking to phrases that I could understand. I pulled the feta cheese out from the highest corner of the refrigerator door. You want me to toast the bread for you? Bala! Lala couldn't reach the plates, but she got out clean butter knives for us. When the toaster oven dinged, I kind of wanted it to make a red alert sound or something. It was so futuristic looking. I lined a basket with one of Mamu's tea towels and filled it with bread. You want some tea? Lala nodded and pulled out a piece of sengak, bigger than her head. She tossed it on her plate and blew on her fingers where the bread had burned her. After breakfast, Lala and I settled in the living room, me to read The Lord of the Rings and her to watch another Iranian soap opera. I had never seen a soap opera in America, so I had no frame of reference, but the Iranian soap operas were absurd. Every single character seemed to be doing a William Shatner impression. My sister loved it. Look at her coat! Lala had finally switched back to English to provide a running commentary for me. On the television, an older woman sat at a table in a fancy restaurant wearing a ridiculous white fur coat that made her the exact color and size of a polar bear. Wow, Mamu found us like that, Lala laughing at the television, me reading my book and concurring with my sister when necessary. Sob Bakir, Lala said, switching back to Farsi now that she had a receptive audience. Sob Bakir, Lala Jan. Mamu kissed Lala and then me. You had your breakfast? Bala? There's still warm sungak in the basket, I said. I can make some more tea. Why don't you make me the special tea you brought, Maman? Okay. While I pulled down the FTG FOP1 first flush Darjeeling, Mamu pulled out a big bowl of kotab covered in plastic wrap from somewhere deep inside the refrigerator, gave me a wink, and carried it into the living room. I heard Lala cry out, "Yum!" in a voice 3 octaves below her normal register. Lala liked kotab even more than I did. I put the pot of tea on a tray along with a few cups so I could serve Mamu in the living room. Thank you, Maman, she said. She inhaled long and slow over her cup. The smell is very nice. Despite what Ardeshir Barami said, it seemed like tea could be for smelling after all. Mamu closed her eyes and took a long, slow sip. It's good, Maman, thank you. I offered a taste to Lala, who refused. It was too hot, and it had not been sweetened at all, and then took my own sip. Mamu smiled and scooted closer to kiss me on the cheek. Thank you, Darius John, she said. Your gift was perfect. I really loved my grandmother. Mom emerged around 10 o'clock, already dressed. She pulled a headscarf off one of the hooks by the door. Mamu, she said. Barim. Mamu emerged from her room, dressed up too. Where are you going? We are going, to visit my friends, Mamu said. It's tradition, Mom said, on the day after Nowruz. Is it? Mom nodded. We never do that back home. I remembered how Sohrab had looked at me when he asked if he would see me, how he was surprised I didn't say yes right away. How could there be a Nowruz tradition I didn't know about? Well, Mom said, and then she blinked at me like she wasn't sure how to answer. Why don't you go visit Sohrab? It was only logical. Okay. I showered and got dressed, and Mom drew me a quick map before she left. Sohrab only lived a few blocks away, but everything looked different if you were walking instead of driving. When we picked up Sohrab to go to Persepolis, it was still dark out. In the daylight, the Rezai's house was older and smaller than Mamu's, the khaki muted enough that I could look at it without sustaining damage to my visual cortex. It had wooden double doors, and each had a differently shaped bronze knocker on it, a horseshoe on the right, and a solid rectangular slab on the left. The bronze was slightly pitted, like the doors, like the house itself. It felt lived in and loved. It made perfect sense for Sohrab to come from a place like this. I gave the horseshoe knocker 3 quick raps. Mavash Rezai answered. There was a smear of white powder across her forehead, and some had gotten into her eyebrows too, but she smiled when she saw me, that same squinting smile she had passed down to her son. Allahu Abba Darius. I always felt weird if someone said Allahu Abba to me because I wasn't sure if I should say it back, even if I was allowed to, since I wasn't Baha'i and I didn't believe in God. The Picard didn't count. Come in. I pulled my Vans off and set them in the corner next to Sohrab's slender shoes. There was a wooden partition separating the entryway from the rest of the house, with shelves covered in pictures and candles and phone chargers. The rugs were white and green with gold accents, and they didn't have little tassels on them like Mamu's. The house felt cozy, like a hobbit hole. The air was heavy with the scent of baking bread. Real homemade bread, not the mass-produced Subway kind. Have you eaten? You want anything? I'm okay, I had breakfast. Are you sure? She steered me toward the kitchen. It's no trouble. I'm sure. I thought I should come visit since it's the day after Nowruz. I felt very Persian. You are so sweet. Darius Kellner, sweet. I liked that Sohrab's mom thought that about me. I really did. You are sure you don't want anything? I'm okay. I had kotab before I came. Your grandma makes the best kotab. Technically, I had not tasted all the possibilities, but I agreed with Mavash Rezai in principle. She sent me with some, I said, holding out the plastic container that I had brought. Mavash Rezai's eyes bugged out, and I was reminded of a Klingon warrior. Her personality was too big and mercurial to be contained in a frail human body. Thank you. Thank your grandma for me. Khanum Rezai set the kotab aside and went back to the counter by her oven. It was dusted with flour, which explained the mysterious white powder on her face. Her sink was overflowing with whole romaine lettuce leaves, bathing under the running water. I wondered if it was for the bread. I didn't know any of the Iranian recipes that involved baking romaine lettuce into bread, but that didn't mean there weren't any. It's Sohrab's favorite, Khanum Rezai said, nodding toward the sink. He and his dad love it. Sohrab's dad. I felt so bad for him. Also, I felt confused because I didn't know anyone whose favorite food was romaine lettuce. Sohrab Rezai contained multitudes. Can you take it outside for me? Mrs. Rezai scooped the leaves into a colander, banged it on the sink a few times, and handed it to me. Put it on the table. I will go get Sohrab. The Rezai's garden was very different from Babu's. There were no fruit trees, no planters of jasmine, only long rows of hyacinths and a collection of huge pots filled with different herbs. The largest was right next to the kitchen. It was nearly 2 feet across and 3 feet high, and it was being assimilated by fresh mint. Mint is the Borg of herbs. If you let it, it will take over each and every patch of ground that it encounters, adding the soil's biologic and technological distinctiveness to its own. There was a charcoal grill in the middle of the garden, the big round kind that looked like a miniature red star base. The only table was a ping-pong table close to the door where I stood holding the dripping romaine leaves. Khanum Rezai? There was no answer. Was the ping-pong table the one I was supposed to put the romaine on? Did Iranians say ping-pong, or did they say table tennis? We didn't cover the history of ping-pong/table tennis in Iran during our net sports unit in physical education, which now seemed like a ridiculous oversight. Khanum Rezai popped up behind me. I almost dropped the lettuce in fright. I forgot this, she said, squeezing behind me and flapping a giant white and blue tablecloth over the ping-pong table. It tented up over the little posts for the net. You can spread the leaves out to dry some. Okay. I did what she asked, spreading the leaves out so they overlapped as little as possible. The water seeped into the tablecloth, turning it translucent. Darius! Sohrab grabbed me around the shoulders from behind and swayed me back and forth. My neck tingled. Oh, hi. He was wearing plaid pajama pants so huge he could have fit his entire body down one leg. They were cinched around his waist with a drawstring. I could tell because he had tucked his green polo shirt into his pants. As soon as Sohrab saw the lettuce, he let me go and ran back inside, talking to his mom in Farsi at warped 9. I had become invisible. As I watched Sohrab through the doorway, he seemed younger somehow, swimming in his pajama pants with his shirt tucked in. I knew without him saying it that he was missing his dad. I felt terrible for him, and I felt terrible feeling sorry for myself. Another Nowruz had come and gone for Sohrab without his father, and I was worried about feeling invisible. But then Sorab looked back at me as I watched him from the doorway, and his eyes squinted up again. His smile was a supernova. Darius, you like sekanjabin? What? Sekanjabin? You've had it? No, I said. What is it? He pulled a short, wide-mouthed jar out of the fridge, said something quick to his mom, and came back outside. It's mint syrup. Here. He unscrewed the jar, shook the water off a piece of lettuce, and dipped it in the sauce. If his face was a supernova before, it became an accretion disk, one of the brightest objects in the universe, as soon as he tasted his lettuce. I loved that Sorab could be transported like that. I took a tiny leaf and tried the sauce. It was sweet and minty, but there was something sour, too. Vinegar? Yes, Babu always adds a little. Babu made this? Yes, you never had it? No, I never heard of it before. How did I not know my grandfather made sekanjabin? How did I not know how delicious sekanjabin was? He was famous for it. My dad, he always grew extra mint for Babu to use when he made it. He gestured out to the garden. You saw our mint? Yeah. Now it grows too much. Babu hasn't made it for a while. Oh. Sorab dipped another leaf and then passed me the jar. It was perfect. Thank you for coming over, Darius. It's tradition to visit your friends the day after Nowruz. I took another leaf to dip. Right? Sorab squeezed my shoulder as he inhaled another piece of lettuce. He nodded and chewed and swallowed and then squinted right at me. Right. After I helped Sorab polish off every piece of lettuce on the table, 2 whole heads, he ran to get dressed while I watched Kanumrazai make her bread. She pounded out the dough with her floured palms and sprinkled a mixture of dried herbs and spices on top. Do you like this bread, Dariusjan? Nuni Barbari? Yeah, Mom gets it from the Persian bakery sometimes. You don't make it at home? Not really. I'll make some for you. You can put it in the freezer and take it home with you. Maman! Sorab had reappeared in the doorway, dressed in real pants and a white polo shirt. He said something to his mom in Farsi, something about dinner, but it was too quick. Come on, Darius, let's go. Thank you, I said to his mom. I followed Sorab to the door and laced up my Vans. There was something he wanted to show me. Page 213, The Khaki Kingdom. We headed down Sorab Street away from Mamu's. A breeze had picked up and the air smelled crisp and a little bit dusty. As we passed an intersection, Sorab pointed to our right. My school is about 5 kilometers that way. He put the accent on the kai in kilometers instead of the lo, which was cool. Do you like it? It's okay, he shrugged. I have class with Ali Reza and Hossein there. Oh, no matter where you went to school, soulless minions of orthodoxy were unavoidable. We passed a long white wall, the backside of a row of shops. The sun shone off it. I sneezed. But you have friends there too, right? Some, not as good as you, Darius. I smiled, but it turned into another sneeze. Sorry, are they all Baha'is? No, only a few, he chuckled. Most people are not like Ali Reza, Darius. They aren't so prejudiced. Sorry, my ears burned. Your school is all boys, right? Yes. We reached a crosswalk. Sorab chewed his cheek and looked at me while we waited for the cars to pass. So you don't have a girlfriend, Darius? I swallowed. No. I tried to keep my voice neutral, but no matter how you answer that question, people will always read too much into it. The fire in my ears spread to my cheeks. How come? I didn't know how to answer that. It wasn't like I could lie to Sorab. I think Sorab realized how uncomfortable I was, though, because before I could say anything else, he said, It's okay. I don't have one either. I almost smiled. Almost. He said, It's different here. Boys and girls don't. He chewed on his sentence for a moment. There is not much interaction until we are older. Yazid is very conservative, you know? Oh, I guess. I didn't know. Not really. But before I could ask, Sorab looked away and pointed. The khaki wall on our right had given way to a wide green park. Scrubby trees dotted the lawn, casting dappled shadows over the benches scattered around. A squat public bathroom stood in the corner, surrounded by a chain-link fence. Who puts a fence around a bathroom? The breeze came up again, stirring the grass. Sorab closed his eyes and breathed in. This is our favorite park, he said. We come here for Sizde Bedar. Sizde Bedar is the 13th day after Nowruz when Persians go for a picnic. Persians are crazy about picnics, especially Sizde Bedar. Back home, every family makes too much of whatever dish they are most famous for. Dolma and salad, olivier and cutlet, and we commandeer an entire park so there's room for pretty much every Persian, fractional or otherwise, in a 50-mile radius. Because Nowruz moves around every year, depending on the equinox, so does Sizde Bedar, which means it sometimes falls on my birthday. But somehow I could never manage to correctly calculate it. It's April 1st this year, right? Sohrab looked up as he did the calculations from the Iranian calendar to the Gregorian one. April 2. Oh, that's my birthday. You'll still be here? I nodded. Good, we can celebrate both. Sohrab grabbed me by the shoulder and led me toward the bathroom. We play football here sometimes when the field is too full. Oh, I hoped we weren't about to play soccer/non-American football. I wasn't ready for that. Cool. Come on, Sohrab said, leading me around the back of the squat building. I want to show you something. Sohrab spared me a brief squinty smile, then stuck his fingers in the chain-link fence surrounding the bathroom and started to climb. The metal flexed and bowed under his slender weight as he wedged the toes of his sneakers into the diamond-shaped gaps. Come on, he said again as he scrambled onto the bathroom's roof. I was heavier than Sohrab, and the fence's structural integrity was highly dubious. I was certain it would experience a non-passive failure if I tried to climb it. Darius, Sohrab called. The roof clattered as he shifted his feet. Come see. I bit my lip and grabbed the fence. The sun had been shining on it all day, and the links were hot beneath my fingers. I clambered up after Sohrab, convinced the fence was going to peel off the building like the lid of a soup can just before I reached the top. But it held, and Sohrab offered a black smudged hand to pull me up onto the roof. My own hands were crisscrossed with perfect black mesh marks, too, and they smelled like old coins. I rubbed my palms together, but only managed to smear the dirt around even worse. Sohrab laughed and threw his arm over my shoulder, which no doubt left a black handprint on my shirt. Look, he nodded straight ahead. Wow. I did not know how I had missed the 2 turquoise points sticking up above the pale, flat rooftop spread before us. They looked like the jeweled spires of some elven palace from a prior age of this world, made of mithril and sapphire and magic and will. I blinked. It seemed like a mirage, too beautiful to be real, but it was still there when I looked again. What is it? The Masjid-e-Jameh. It's a very famous mosque, hundreds of years old. Wow, it's huge. Those are just he thought for a second. Minarets, yes? I nodded. Sohrab's English vocabulary was immense. And below there are 2 domes, huge domes, in the garden and the mosque. Wow, my own vocabulary had become somewhat less immense in the face of the majestic mosque. The Masjid-e-Jameh towered above the other buildings in Yazid. Everything around it was short and tan, and even the domes were only a few stories high. From up here, it felt like looking out over a fantasy world, a world wrought by dwarvish cunning and elven magic. What are those things? I pointed to the spires sticking up from some of the roofs between us and the Masjid-e-Jameh. We call them Badgir, wind catcher. Oh, it's ancient Persian air conditioning. Cool. Sohrab left his arm resting on my shoulder as he pointed out the other buildings nearby. Newer, smaller mosques and bazaars, and farther away, looming over Yazid, the mountains we were going to visit soon. I could smell his deodorant, something medicinal like cough syrup mixed with pine needles, and then I couldn't remember if I had put on my own deodorant after showering. I leaned down to surreptitiously sniff my armpit. It did not smell like a mountain breeze, whatever that's supposed to smell like, but it didn't smell like cooked onions either, which is what I usually smelled like when I forgot my deodorant and began producing biotoxins. We sat on the ledge of the roof for a very long time, swinging our legs and surveying the khaki kingdom laid out before us. Clouds blew by, and the breeze tossed my hair and kept it from turning into a level 8 fire hazard. Across the street from us, a pair of women walked down the sidewalk. One was older, with a blue headscarf so faded it was practically gray. It reminded me of the old rag Dad used to polish his dress shoes. The younger woman wore a shiny red headscarf and a stylish jacket that came down to her hips. Mom said those were called manteaux, which was yet another Farsi word, and it was another word that Farsi may or may not have borrowed from French. I did not understand the Iranian obsession with French loanwords. The minarets of the Jama Mosque sparkled in the sunlight as I used my tongue to dig a piece of lettuce out from between my teeth. I could still taste the sweet and minty sikanjabin. My grandfather made it. Hey, Sohrab, yes? What did you mean yesterday after Babu when you said that wasn't how he really is? He was not himself because of the tumor. But you've known him a long time, right? Sohrab nodded. He and Mamu helped so much when my dad went to prison. What was he like before? Sohrab let his arm fall from my shoulder and folded his hands in his lap. He chewed on his lip for a moment. I remember one time, 3-4 years ago, Mamu and Babu came to our house for gorma sabzi. My mom loves to make it. Gorma sabzi is a stew made with tons of herbs and greens. I always found it suspicious because it had red kidney beans in it that looked like tiny eyes, corpse lights lit in the swamp with a green stew to draw weary hobbitses to their graves. Babu had just got his new phone. He needed me to help him with it. Babu's not very good with technology. Really? Yes, I help with their computer too, so they can Skype with your mom. Oh, thanks. Of course, I love your grandparents. Sora bopped me on my shoulder. Anyway, he was trying to put his background photo to a picture of you from school. Me? Yes, he was so proud. He always talks about his grandchildren in America. Always. It didn't make sense. Ardashir Barami, proud of me? He didn't even know me. Sohrab was more of a grandson to him than I would ever be. He talked so much about you. When you came here, I thought I already knew you. I knew we would be friends. My throat squeezed shut. I loved how Sohrab could say things like that without feeling weird, how there were no walls inside him. I wish I could have known it back then, I said. I wish I was cut off by the azan sounding. Up on the rooftop it was loud and clear, richer than I had ever heard it before. We listened to the voice in the speakers chant, and I imagined everyone in the Jama Mosque kneeling to pray, and all the people in Yazid heeding the call, and even farther out, a neutral network spread throughout the entire country and to the Iranian diaspora across the whole planet. I felt very Persian just then, even though I didn't understand the chanting, even though I wasn't Muslim. I was one tiny pulsar in a swirling, luminous galaxy of Iranians, held together by the gravity of thousands of years of culture and heritage. There was nothing like it back home. Maybe the Super Bowl? When it finished, I wiped off my eyes with my sleeve. I would have felt nervous excreting stress hormones in front of someone else, but not Sohrab. Not when he told me he felt like he already knew me. Maybe I already knew him too. Maybe I did. It's beautiful, Sohrab said. Yeah. We only pray in the morning and night, not to the azan. Oh, sometimes I wish we had it. It feels like you're connected. Yes. He picked up a loose sliver of tile and tossed it off the roof. I scratched at the collar of my shirt, wishing it had tassels on it because the silence between us had grown suddenly heavy. It was not unpleasant, but it was full, like the hush before a sudden downpour. Sohrab swallowed. Darius, do you believe in God? I looked away. Like I said, I didn't really believe in any sort of higher power, the Picard notwithstanding. I found my own chunk of roof to throw off. I guess not, I said. I felt ashamed and inadequate. Sohrab kicked his heels against the fence beneath us and studied the shadows we cast on the ground below. Does it bother you? No, Sohrab said. I could tell without him saying that it did. Sorry, I whispered. Sohrab shook his head and tossed another tile to clatter on the ground below. Who do you turn to? He closed his eyes and swallowed. When you need succor. I knew he was thinking about his dad. I put my hand on his shoulder. It was awkward. I didn't know how Sohrab could just do stuff like that without thinking about it. But after a second, it felt okay. I guess that's what friends are for. Sohrab looked up and almost squinted. Almost. He put his arm over my shoulder and I reached across him, so we were linked. I'm glad we are friends, Darius, he said. He reached up and mussed my hair. I liked how he did that. I'm glad you are here. Me too. I wish you could stay, but we will always be friends even when you go back home. Really? Yes. I squeezed Sohrab's shoulder. He squeezed mine back. Okay.